Nobody told you his name. That is the first thing you need to understand. The people who walked past him every morning, the ones in the pressed shirts and the noise-canceling headphones, they did not know it either. They saw a shopping cart. They saw bent metal spokes and torn nylon panels pulled from a trash can on a rain-soaked city corner. They saw a man who had nothing. What they missed, what they almost erased from existence simply by looking away, was an engineer without a blueprint, a builder without a budget, and a mind so precise and so alive that what he assembled from other people's garbage would stop a neighborhood cold and force an entire city to ask one very uncomfortable question: what exactly do we throw away? And why do we never stop to ask whether it deserved to be thrown away at all? His name was Marcus, and this is the story of what he saw in the broken things the rest of us never bothered to look at twice. Picture the scene. Early morning, somewhere between 5 and 6, the kind of hour when the streets still smell like last night's rain, the gutters run with shallow brown water, and nobody with options is watching. Marcus moves slowly along the sidewalk, his coat the color of old concrete, his cart making that familiar low rattling sound that city people learn to unhear the way they unhear traffic or wind. He is not rushing. He never rushes. He stops at the mouth of a trash can, reaches in and pulls out a busted umbrella. The cheap kind, the dollar store kind, the kind that inverts itself the first time the wind even considers gusting. Most people see garbage and nothing more. Marcus sees something else entirely. He turns it over in both hands, runs his thumb along each rib, tests the stretchers and counts the panels. Then he sets it carefully in his cart alongside the 7 others he has collected this morning, and moves on without hurrying, reading the street ahead for the next one. What did he know that the rest of us did not? That is the question this entire story is built on. And before we go any further, drop a comment right now. Tell me, when was the last time you actually fixed something instead of replacing it? A pair of shoes, a lamp, a jacket with a broken zipper that still had years of life in it. Think about it honestly, because if you are, like most people, living in a modern city, you probably cannot remember. And I want you to understand something before we go further. That is not a personal failure. That is not laziness or a character flaw. That is the result of a system deliberately designed to make repair feel impossible and embarrassing. Because what you are about to discover will change how you see every piece of so-called garbage you have walked past your entire adult life. Now let us talk about what we have become. Walk into any drugstore, any convenience mart, any corner shop in any city in the world the moment storm clouds roll in, and you will find the same product sitting near the register: a compact folding umbrella, steel shaft, roughly 6 millimeters wide, 8 ribs stamped from the thinnest possible steel alloy that can technically still be called metal without laughing, a canopy stitched from polyester so thin you can practically read through it when the sun hits right, a push-button mechanism held together by 2 pieces of injection molded plastic costing the manufacturer about 4 cents to produce. Total factory cost, $2 to $4. Retail price to you, standing soaked on the sidewalk, $12, $15, sometimes $20 if the shop near the train station has figured out how desperate you are. And what happens the first time the wind gusts above 20 miles per hour? The ribs invert with a sharp metallic snap. The stretchers disconnect from the runner. The canopy tears at the seam where it meets the ferrule, the small metal cap at the very top. And you, standing completely soaked, holding a piece of warped metal that has just failed catastrophically at its single purpose on Earth, drop it into the nearest bin and make a quiet mental note to buy another one. Just like last time, just like next team, just like 100 million other people did this week in cities across the world. Here is what that quiet cycle produces. Roughly 1 billion umbrellas are discarded globally every single year. Not lost, not donated, not repaired, discarded. Most go directly to landfill, where the steel, the fiberglass, the nylon, the plastic, none of it biodegrades on any timeline that matters to anyone alive today. And the companies that make them design them this way, deliberately, not because durable materials were unavailable, because a product that lasts does not generate a replacement purchase. Your frustration, your replacement purchase, your next soaking walk to the corner store, that is not a problem they are trying to solve. That is a revenue cycle they are actively protecting. Here is the part that should genuinely make you angry. The engineering knowledge to build a truly weatherproof, structurally sound umbrella capable of lasting decades has existed for well over a century. They chose not to apply it. They told you the umbrella broke because you bought the wrong brand. They sold you a slightly more expensive version of the exact same fragile design and charged you twice as much for the feeling of having made the responsible choice. You are not the problem. You were handed broken instructions wrapped around a broken product and charged full price for both. The failure was engineered. The frustration was by design. Marcus had understood this long before he had words for it. He understood it the way people who live entirely outside the consumer system come to understand things, through necessity, through patience, and through the kind of slow, uninterrupted attention that the rest of us surrendered the moment our phones gave us somewhere else to put our eyes every time the world went quiet around us. Let us go deeper, because what Marcus was doing with those broken dollar store umbrellas was not improvisation, and it was not desperation. It was systematic, layered, and structurally intelligent in ways that most people who build things with full access to hardware stores and instructional videos have never quite managed. And it all started with one simple observation. The first thing Marcus understood, the precise thing that separates a tinkerer from a genuine engineer, is that most broken umbrellas are not broken everywhere. They are broken in one place. The rib snaps at the joint where it connects to the crown. The stretcher wire pops loose from the notch in the runner. The canopy fabric tears at a single seam under concentrated wind pressure. But everything surrounding that single failure point, the central shaft, the majority of the ribs, the canopy panels that did not tear, the handle is structurally intact, sitting in a landfill bin because the object as a whole has been classified as done. The consumer cannot see this because the consumer is trained to treat objects as unified units. It works or it does not. Marcus treated every umbrella as a system of independent, separable components. Think of it this way: if one tire on your car goes flat, you do not scrap the engine and the chassis and all four seats. You fix the tire. Marcus was applying that same elementary logic to a product the entire economy had decided was simply too cheap to think clearly about. So he sorted. Every umbrella that came into his cart was assessed, taken apart by hand, and organized by what it still had to offer. Good ribs in one pile, intact canopy panels in another, functional handles, especially the wooden ones, set carefully to the side. Ferrules, runners, caps, tips. He knew every component by name and function, the way a watchmaker knows every gear inside a movement, the way a surgeon names every bone without a diagram. But understanding the brake was only the beginning. Here is where it gets remarkable. Here is the part that pulled strangers off the sidewalk and held them there. Marcus was not just repairing damaged umbrellas and returning them to use, though he did that too. He had moved past repair into something with no category in any design manual, because no one in the design world had thought to approach the problem from where he was standing. He was building a shelter, not a lean-to, not a tarp slung across a rope. A structure with deliberate geometry and a roof system engineered to shed water along a planned path. The central shafts of 8 salvaged umbrellas, stripped of their canopies and lashed together at their tips using wire collected from construction site debris, formed the primary skeleton, a dome framework roughly 12 feet across and 6 feet tall at its peak. The geometry was not guesswork and it was not luck. The radial structure of an open umbrella, ribs fanning outward from a central point under tension, is one of the most inherently stable, load-distributing shapes in the natural world. Spiders build it into every web. Nautilus shells echo it. Suspension bridge engineers use refined versions of it to carry a roadway across open air. Marcus used it because he had watched it hold under wind and rain from every angle, and he trusted what his own hands had confirmed more than any diagram he had never been shown. Each additional shaft he lashed into the frame did not simply make the structure larger, it made it proportionally stronger. Because every new radial member shared the compressive load equally with all the ones already in place. The dome grew outward and tightened inward at the same time. The canopy panels came next. He sorted them by color across the ground: deep reds, matte blacks, navy blues, a handful of clear panels that caught the gray morning light like frosted glass. He sewed them together using fishing lines salvaged near the river, threaded through a needle traded for at a nearby shelter. No sewing machine. He did not need one. Every seam was closed by hand using a double-running stitch, one of the oldest and most mechanically reliable textile adjoining techniques ever developed, used in sail making and in working garment repair for centuries before industrial machines made hand-stitching feel old-fashioned. Each panel overlapped the next by 1.5 inches, creating a water-shedding outer skin that worked on the same physical principle as roof shingles or the scales of a fish. Water strikes the upper surface, runs to the overlap, transfers onto the panel below, continues downward panel by panel until it reaches the outer edge of the dome and falls clean to the ground. No pooling, no dripping through the interior, no exposed seam facing directly upward into the rain. If this story is making you see the world around you differently right now, if you are looking at the broken things nearby and starting to genuinely wonder, take a second and hit the like button. We are only halfway there. The wooden handles were the last element and, in many ways, the most important one. He prized them above the aluminum and plastic handles because wood could be worked with the simplest tools. He split each one lengthwise along its natural grain using a sharpened piece of flat steel and used the halved sections to frame the structure's entrance, lashing them into a low doorway arch using strips of canopy nylon cut into cord. The arch that resulted was, by any honest measure, beautiful in a way that went beyond simply being functional. The curve of an umbrella handle is ergonomic, shaped precisely around the geometry of the human grip. That same curve, inverted and slightly scaled, produces a doorway arch proportioned almost perfectly to human scale entry. Marcus had not calculated this, he had noticed it. That is the difference between following instructions and actually watching the world with full attention. And then, something unexpected happened. Information travels differently in communities that do not primarily rely on screens. It travels on foot, through conversation, through the simple and ancient act of one person stopping and pointing and saying, "Come look at this." One morning, a woman on her way to the bus stop glanced across the empty lot beneath the overpass and stopped walking entirely. She stood for a moment, then she went back for her neighbor from the building on the corner. By afternoon 11, people stood quietly at the edge of the lot, looking at what Marcus had assembled. Some of them had walked past this same lot every day for years and never once looked at it. By the following morning, someone had taken a photograph, By the end of the week, that photograph had traveled from a neighborhood Facebook group to a community news site to the city desk of a regional paper, and a reporter named Diane had driven across town with a camera and a notebook to find a man whose name no one in her newsroom had known existed until 48 hours before she knocked on the chain link fence and asked if she could come in. The structure was larger by the time she arrived. He had kept building. He had found more umbrellas. Why did we abandon the idea of repair? Why did an entire civilization that had sustained itself for thousands of years through the careful maintenance and extension of the useful life of objects decide, within 2 generations, that broken things were simply finished? There are 3 reasons, and they are simpler and more deliberate than most people want to believe. First, speed. Repairing an object requires assessment, sourcing, skilled attention, and unrushed time. None of that compresses into a quarterly earnings report or a same-day delivery window. The industrial economy runs on throughput, and throughput requires replacement, not restoration. Second, cost. At the scale of mass manufacturing, it is genuinely cheaper to produce a new low-quality unit in a factory overseas than to employ trained human hands to repair the old one locally. The labor economics of repair were deliberately destroyed by the economics of cheap production, and we were never told that was a trade being made on our behalf. Third, the story. Sometime in the middle of the 20th century, disposability was repackaged and sold to the public as freedom and modernity. You do not have to fix things anymore. You can simply replace them and move forward. What felt like liberation was actually the patient construction of a permanent and profitable dependency. You were told that repair was for people who could not afford to do better, and so an entire civilization unlearned within 2 generations the practical skills that had kept human beings sheltered, clothed, warm, and self-sufficient for all of recorded history. The hidden cost arrived later, as hidden costs always do. Landfills, lost skills passed down through no one. The slow erosion of confidence that comes from knowing in your own hands that you can fix the things around you when they break. The creeping sense, never quite named, that you are not capable without the right product, the right professional, the right replacement. That feeling is not a personality trait. It was manufactured, deliberately, profitably, and then the blame was placed squarely on you. You are not incapable. You are made to feel incapable. Those are entirely different things, and it matters enormously that you understand the difference. So what can you actually do right now? Option 1, the easiest place to start. The next time an umbrella fails on you, do not drop it in the bin while you are still standing in the rain. Take it home. Lay it on a table and find the single specific point where it broke. In the overwhelming majority of cases, you will find 1 snapped rib, 1 disconnected stretcher wire, or 1 cracked runner. Replacement umbrella ribs are available online in sets of 8 for under $5. A 3-minute repair with a small pair of pliers puts a fully functional umbrella back into years of service. You lose 3 minutes, you gain an object that works, and the quiet satisfaction of refusing to participate in a cycle designed to own you. Option 2, the intermediate path. Start paying attention to the broken umbrellas other people leave behind. After any significant rainstorm in any city, they collect in public bins and on street corners like a small mechanical graveyard waiting to be read. Canopy fabric is waterproof nylon. Cut free and folded, it becomes emergency rain cover, a utility pouch, or patch material for other waterproof gear. Steel ribs, straightened by hand, work as plant stakes. Repair splints for cracked tool handles or raw material for small frameworks. Wooden handles are quality raw material for any number of small projects. You need wire cutters and the willingness to see potential exactly where you have been trained to see only waste. Option 3, the minimum. Before you throw away the next broken thing, pause for 10 seconds. Ask one question: what part of this still works? That question, small and inconvenient, is the beginning of an entirely different relationship with the material world. It is the question Marcus was asking at 5 in the morning, reaching past everything discarded by people who never once stopped to ask it. Marcus was not a man who fell through the cracks of society. He was a man who stopped believing the cracks were inevitable, who looked at what we discard and saw, with clear and unsentimental eyes, the raw material of something worth building. He built it without a permit, without a budget, without a tool that could not fit inside the pocket of a concrete-colored coat. And when Diane's photograph ran, the letters that came to the editor were not about zoning violations. They were from architects and engineers who wanted to know who had trained him. Nobody had trained him. He had simply paid attention to what the rest of us had decided was not worth looking at. Knowledge was never lost. It was thrown away, and we are here to pull it back out. This channel exists for the things that got thrown away, the skills, the methods, the ways of seeing and repairing that kept people capable and self-sufficient for generations, and that the modern economy decided were no longer profitable to preserve. If that matters to you, subscribe and join us. Tell us in the comments, what do you want us to dig up next? What skill, what practice, what forgotten way of doing things deserves to come back into the light? We are just getting started, and we are not doing this alone.